G'day guys. We're chatting today to Nick and Jim from Fell Satori Toolworks. Um, we'll try and make this interview flow nicely so that I'm obviously not an interviewer. I don't think you guys have done too many Today shows or anything.
No.
Just police interviews, not many, not many for
Yeah.
media.
So what you see in this video is what you get. We're the real deal. Um, the guys have got their kids in the background there. My daughter's getting ready for
Yeah,
school.
you might need to start again. Sorry.
And that's the reality of life and working from home and with families and that's how we really want to run our businesses. We've obviously chatted offline. Um, you guys have both got young kids. I've got teenage daughters. And having that as part of our lives is why we've chosen to work this way.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and I started before I had a kid, but it's yeah, one of the things I like really look forward to as he's growing up. It's like I can't wait till the days I can get him in the shop and just I don't know, teach him what I know and just like kind of keep the craft going, whether or not he wants to do it full time, which I probably doubt he will, but I think it's just really cool to be able to share the stuff that we do with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Just while Jim's off getting organized,
Yeah.
we were chatting about the history of where the name Fell Satori came from. Can you tell us a bit
Yeah.
about it?
So basically so I was doing kitchen knives and kind of just odds. I did a couple of daggers, some swords, some tantos, things like that. But it was mainly kitchen cutlery, and I was running that under Fell Knives, real simple. And then Jim, who is now back, his existing business was in precious metals, doing mostly silver bars. It was Satori Precious Metals, and we bounced ideas back and forth on trying to come up with a new name for the woodworking venture. And in my opinion, they all sounded like the teenage band that you put together. The names that you come up with for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard coming up with names, and yeah, after enough back and forth, we just decided to combine the two. Fell Satori. There you go. And it was kind of neat because for mine and Fell, it's to cut down, and Satori is essentially like a form of enlightenment. And it's just kind of, you take that first cut with a Fell Satori knife, and it's enlightenment about how you're cutting tools or cutting up wood. And yeah, just kind of a fun little, just combining what we already had, but it actually works really nicely for what we're doing.
Well, it works so well together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not having known you guys in your pre Fell Satori, the name just melds together perfectly.
Yeah. We did. We got lucky. Good synchronicity that they worked out. So
So I'd love for you both to tell us a bit about, your history as to how you got to where you are now and what you see, going forward and stuff like that.
yeah. Yeah. So I kind of grew up around like people that made tools. When I was younger, I grew up kind of rural. My grandfather and father would, fix stuff, fix their saws and, sharpen a saw and an anvil. Like I was always around that. So when I started getting into precious metals, I naturally kind of gravitated towards using blacksmith tools. I used hammers, I used anvils. I never shaped anything by like pouring it into a mold that has a shape. I would just shape it by hand. Um, I was, carving spoons for a while and I wanted to get a better knife. And I realized that it was really hard to get a good knife. You had to wait a long time or you had to search around and find it or you had to buy it used. And I figured I'd reach out to somebody that I knew made good knives, and that was Nick. And we kind of hung out and chatted about it. And that's that. And he could talk about his history, but there was no one else I would have paired with to kind of try to execute this idea. So,
Yeah, for me, I born in London, moved here when I was about 10 years old, and I don't know. It is my family's always been into. They're mostly in like photo and film industry, and for the longest, I thought I was going to be a photographer when I got out of school. But when I started getting out of school, I started gardening a lot, and I decided I wanted to try running a little landscaping company. Um, it wasn't a very successful one, so I had a lot of time on my hands. And basically, I was buying wood for spoons to carve, and I found a little knife kit, and I was like, oh, that seems fun. So I made a couple little hunting knives where the blade was done, and I just put the handles on. But my biggest thing for me was I really liked cooking and growing food at the time, so it kind of rabbit holed into like, okay, these hunting knives are cool, but how do I make a kitchen knife? And yeah, enough YouTube and setting up a forge in the backyard, and all of a sudden I was kind of really diving into that one pretty head first. And then from there, yeah, I made kitchen knives for about 7 years before Jim reached out, and it was kind of one of those things. I got into making knives because I was carving spoons back then, and to kind of have it come full circle where it's like, okay, now make the tools to make the carving knives. And I was super into it. I think we met once, we made a couple of things in silver, and then within like a week or two of us meeting for the first time, we had our first prototype slöyd, which we sent off to Sean Hearn and got a lot of feedback on it. And
yeah, version 2 is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, it was an interesting experience that like he and I talked, we discussed geometry. We kind of looked at like, one of the things is that Nick's very well grounded in functionality, and I'm kind of an abstract thinker and idea guy. And like we discussed geometries and what would work and what wouldn't work, and things like how we have a lot less belly than most carving knives. And we just kind of went with it and flowed, and it came out really good. And a bunch of people checked it for us to make sure it was solid, and we were pretty happy with it. So it happened really quick, and it just kind of keeps happening. Like with our Tuka Camp recently, the little in shave that we just dropped recently, like everything's working pretty well. So
yeah,
it's been a pretty good relationship the whole time. But yeah, and then
lately
you were a jerk at the beginning. And then going forward, just more tools. We're getting the tooling so we can start doing axes. We're gonna do a different take than what I think most people think of when they think of a carving axe. There's a very Scandinavian style bend where there's nothing wrong with, but we're gonna go a little bit of a different angle. Try to make a laser beam carving axe. We're working on gouges. We're working on chisels. Different variations of slöyd knives. And then I think one of the principles we both kind of agreed on early is we want to do a lot of other stuff too, just so that we don't get bored, because we don't want to feel kind of trapped in a rut. So we're playing with precious metals. We make rings. We're about to start into some cooking stuff like scoops, spoons, bowls, plates. Pretty much we want to get to the point where we're doing well enough where we can kind of decide what we want to do that day without having to ask anybody. So.
Wow. So you guys obviously operate on a 40-hour day to be fitting all that in.
Somehow we're getting away with our regular 9 to 5 right now.
Wow.
There's
And
definitely
young
some
kids.
days where I think we need to push a little bit more, but we're making it work because we got to have time. We both family men, so
Young kids,
we want to make sure that we have our weekends with our family and get home at a reasonable time to get dinner on the table and all that.
Are you finding time to carve spoons still?
Just barely. I mean, it happens inevitably where we'll be making a bunch of stuff and we have to test it, and then we've lost a day because we're just carving things, making wood chips in the shop. But it's a tough balance where like we've got to get the orders that we have out, we got to put new things out, but you also have to make sure that you're taking time to do the craft that you're creating tools for. Make sure that things are performing the way they're meant to, and frankly, it's like we both enjoy it a lot. So you kind of find yourself stuck on it.
Yeah, every Saturday I basically I get up at 5, and about 7 o'clock the kids get up, they have breakfast in them, they watch a little bit of TV or they read a book, and for like about 30 minutes I'll rough a spoon out really quick, and then later on in the day I'll sneak train about 45 minutes to an hour to carve it, but the entire time I'm like putting it down, running around. So I try to get it in, but definitely not as much time.
Yeah, my kiddos too. So I don't do any carving at home right now. If I do get free time, I'm usually taking that to clean up after him. But I'm excited for when he's a little bit older and I don't have to worry about having sharp tools out around him.
Oh, you only cut yourself once before you learn quickly. What's the dynamic between you guys? Like how are you making it work together? Who does what?
Well, right now it's a bit of a split. We've got Lucas. You want to pop in frame real quick? We've got Lucas who's about to show up right now. He's been working with me for a while with the fell knife stuff. So he's been handling a lot of our rough
Hey,
forging,
Lucas.
getting the blades forged. Basically, I'll prototype a tool. I'll figure out the steps are to get that thing forged, teach it to Lucas, and then Lucas is able to like batch out a bunch of those forged for us. Um, we'll get the heat treat done, usually between me and Lucas. And then my main focus is making sure that the geometry, the bevels are ground perfectly, and I do all the handle work. And then Jim is on every single blade gets sharpened through Jim, and he's kind of handling a lot more of the just the background, getting the website, make sure that it's worked, make sure that it's worked, make sure it's working.
That's why I do the website.
Yeah, he is handling mailing list, and he's also handling a lot of the research and development because while I have carved some knives in the past, or sorry, carved some spoons in the past, I'm not very well versed in like a lot of the tooling, and so he's been making sure that we're kind of focused on, you know, what's the next tool that we need to work well, testing that tool to make sure that it works well before we even send it to anybody else for external testing, and just yeah, generally keeping us on track.
Yeah, I would say the way it goes is I'll kind of look at a tool that I think there's a need for. I'll bring it to Nick, and I'll usually have some ideas on how we can do it differently. Nick will see how those ideas work in theory. We make a prototype, we use it, we either scrap it or keep moving, and then typically we get it out to like Sean Hearn or Andy or somebody to take a look at it. And then if it's good, it's good, and we roll. We just want to. We always like. I guess there's a focus point where we try to do it differently. Like we try to just put our own kind of spin on it. Not because we think other versions are not good or not great, but just because we want to have our own spin on it, you know.
Yeah. Your own, yep, yeah. So you're not copying others. You're making your own twist, and yeah,
yeah. Because there's no.
I mean, I know for me, part of a carving tool is the way that it looks. Yeah, I know that that doesn't necessarily affect the way that it functions. But the first part for me with any of my carving tools is I want to pick it up. I want to hold it. I want it to look good. I mean, that might be a bit shallow. I don't care. If it means that I'm going to pick it up and use it, you're already winning. And you guys have got some absolutely stunning aesthetics to all the tools that I've seen, and including the drop bear, which I'm holding right now. It looks so good.
Thanks. That's one spot we got. Like he and I, like when we started talking, we have the exact same aesthetic like preferences, which is just made it really easy to kind of refine down to what we wanted things to look like.
Yeah, and it's been fun. It's like the first slöyd we made, the handle that I made was just not a good slöyd handle because I just got a little too. I was thinking, oh, it's a tool, it needs to be more ergonomic than the kitchen knives I'm doing. But in the end, it turned out it's like we're basically making what, in my opinion, it's like the Japanese kitchen knife of the woodworking tools. It's got a very similar handle. It's got the octagonal wah handle. We just make sure that it flows beautifully with the blade. It fills the hand the way it's supposed to. You're not going to be straining your pinky from it swelling back or skinnying out in anywhere that shouldn't. And it's kind of fun. It's like little things like I know we're not the only person to round the spine, but I wasn't sure if that was at first I was like, oh, like, hey Sean, should we round the spine? I do that to all my kitchen knives because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And you want the thing in your hand to be comfortable, but I was like, maybe there's a reason you wouldn't want that in a woodworking tool. But he was like, oh no, most of us, we usually have to round the spines if we want that on our own knives. And I was like, great, we're gonna do that on every single one we put out.
Yep.
It's just like comfort is key. It's like I design knives to be held on the line for 8 hours a day, and it's little things, straight corners, they dig into your hand and they don't feel good. It's like it's like even the handle, those facets, they're all gently rounded over to make sure that wherever it's in your hand, it always feels comfortable.
And like one of the cool features too, like the way our facets go, when you're sharpening, the handle guides you while you're sharpening. You can find that bevel very easily just using your facets. Like it all flows together to kind of create a direct point. So
And those, I mean, those facets mean that you don't have to hang on for dear life in the handle too. So, which reduces fatigue in your hands. Is there anything else you want to tell us about the knife?
I'm like a fast carver, so the fastest room play. Nick and Nick filming me carving is him going slow down, slow down, slow down. When I'm roughing or if like for the detail work, sure I'll go slow. When I'm roughing, I want to go pedal to the metal. So having something to hang on to helps. So.
Yeah. And you've done a flat over hollow for the bevel.
Yeah. Yeah. And we actually, most people go with an 8-inch hollow, but we went with a 6-inch hollow um, for a number of reasons. But we found it's like funny, like when we first put it out, we knew that a lot of people were doing 8-inch. And so I was kind of like, I'm going to do a 6 and we're going to send it to Sean and we're going to send it to all these people and let's see if they notice it. And no one really picked up on it off top. We've had to like let people know, but it's one of those things where they're like, it's easier to sharpen, it's easier to keep clean, and it engages really nicely because it's just that little bit skinnier where you're actually finding into the edge.
So that should mean too, though, that that hollow is actually deeper, correct?
Exactly.
So with sharpening, that means that hollow is going to stay there for a lot longer.
Way longer, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this has been sharpened probably, I don't know. I'm trying to see if I can get that on there. It's probably been sharpened 30 times. And I mean,
Wow.
it's still, those rails are still relatively thin. I mean,
And it's
Andy's
still
trying
there
to kill
from
his.
tip to heel too, yeah?
Yeah, Andy's trying to kill his. Andy, I don't know how many times Andy sharpened his, but it's still hanging. So.
Well, I mean, I guess he's got an advantage. He's got a Tormek, so he'll be able to
Yeah.
maintain it if he needs to.
Yeah.
All right, and comes with this great little slip sheath as well.
Yeah, we've had mostly positive. We've had a couple of people that are like, "Oh, I stabbed through it," and it's a simple leather sheath, but it's like we wanted to make sure that every single knife came with something to protect it that we could include for free.
Yeah, we're not leather workers. We don't have the time to learn to become leather workers. Like we want to make knives. We want to make tools.
But we thought it was like it's an attractive and simple and effective more than anything.
Yep.
Carry
And
like
it hangs on nicely. It's a good firm fit. Also means that it goes into a tool wrap easily.
Yep.
Whereas at the moment you put on a proper sheath, you're probably going to take that off so you can put it in your tool wrap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a great job. Do you guys have any makers in blacksmithing, also in carving world that you idolize, and who are they and why?
I mean, for the carving tools, it's obviously I feel like probably everybody's, but Nick Westerman's definitely seems like he's the top dog. He's got it down. He has a beautiful eye for design. His tools perform beautifully. We definitely have taken inspiration from his work to try to make sure that we have tools that perform at that top level that people really want to use.
Yeah, I mean, like in the States, like Jason London, he's really inspiring in his work ethic. Like,
yeah,
I wish we could work as hard as that guy because we would be a lot more productive if we were. I think, yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, like I think Ashworth with his like super sharp, flicky knives that he makes that are skinny and aggressive. We dig that. I mean, we like them all, man. I mean, we like Mora. We respect anybody that makes a knife that can cut and does a good job. Yeah, I think Westerman's, everybody's top dog, but it's not a competition to us. Like, we make the best Fell Satori knife. We're not going to make the best slöyd knife because some slöyd knives people aren't going to like it. You know what I mean? Like, it's about the user and it's about doing the best you can do. But yeah, I have all sorts of idols. Ragoni Ironworks is like the god of tooling. He's a tool maker. He makes a lot of decorative stuff, and he has a die or a tool or a setup for every single thing that he makes, and they're all consistent and beautiful. So we have a lot of guys we look at. Alex Bolt, we're both big fans of Alex Bolt.
He's a fantastic smith, really good smith.
Super good smith, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I like. I mean, we get inspiration from. I mean, honestly, there's songs in our tools. We get inspired by anything, and we look at what people do and see the positive and try to inspire ourselves to do the positive.
Nice.
start now.
Just go.
Get a Mora, get going. Yeah, I don't know. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's the same with like when I first got into spoon carving, I was just, I had a lot of extra time and I was like on it, I like doing things with my hands. So I was doing a lot of gardening. And so I was like, all right, my garden's taken care of. I've got nothing to do for the rest of the day. Let me just try carving a spoon. And, it's one of those rabbit holes. I started with an up and L folding knife. That's what I had. And then I was like, I can't carve this bowl. So I ran down to the shop and I got myself a little hook knife from Flex Cut, I think it was. And that got me through my first 10 spoons or something. And, you just slowly start improving on your tooling little by little. But, first things first is just get into it and you'll find out what you need as you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much a matter of if the spoon can bring food to your mouth and not fall apart, you made a really good spoon. It doesn't matter what it looks like. And you can start worrying about what it looks like later. I think in blacksmithing, spoon carving, one of the secrets is things don't really look nice until they do. Yeah. Like when you're in the middle of the process, things don't necessarily look great. Don't let that discourage you. Just do it. If you can't afford the tools you want, use the tools you can get. Skills are skills. It doesn't matter. Like it's not a competition whatsoever. And just go. Like don't judge yourself by guys on Instagram that are making beautiful spoons because they got there. They didn't start there, and you got to start too. Just have fun. One of the things that I personally feel not bad about, but like I see people get discouraged in their carving when they're starting and they get frustrated. It's like, dude, it's a spoon. It's fine. Like we all win. Like if you cut wood, you won. Like you're good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not.
And while they are, relatively far and few between, it's like if you can find yourself at a spoon carving event or if somebody's teaching a class, it's a really great way to start because you'll skip, months of trial and error doing it on your own. If you just have somebody that's been doing it a while, kind of just, teach you the basics and they'll get you off right.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of if you watch YouTube videos, Andy, Emmett, Sean, just all sorts of guys, just zero in on what they're doing and not what they're making. So don't watch the whole spoon. Watch them in that cut. Try to figure out why they're making that cut, what that cut's doing for the overall design, then try to replicate that cut. Don't attack a spoon, attack the shoulder of the spoon, attack the end of the spoon, attack the top of the bowl. You have to win a bunch of battles to get a nice spoon. It's not just one thing. So
what you guys have just said is so good. Like seriously, like the thing, one of the things that drew me to spoon carving was, once all the social media, and I guess COVID has a lot to thank, I guess, for it, is that we all kind of came together, and the lack of egos within the carving community is so refreshing. You've got these guys like Emmett, like Barn, David Phoenix Creations. They're so giving in their knowledge and happy to help each other out. And everybody is really happy to help each other out. There's not these egos. I came from the surf industry, and there's a lot of ego there.
Yeah.
I'm from precious metals. It is literal cutthroat people trying to kill each other. Like it's not a lot of collaboration in that world. I think one of the coolest, most impressive things is you've got a lot of the guys that people are learning to carve spoons from. They also sell spoons. They are literally giving away free information to their future competition, but they do it because they just want people carving. They don't care. And I think that's really admirable. That's really cool. Same thing with Nick Westerman did a 5-part series with Zed Outdoors where he gave a lot of information out on how he makes the turning slöyd. And that's precious information, but he wants people making good stuff. So he gives it. And I think that's pretty admirable. Yeah. Nick still wants to know how to make French toast. We'll not tell him. He's not getting the recipe. I'll die with it. I will die with that recipe. So, but I think it's impressive. And that's one of the things that draws it to it. It's just the collaboration. It's just people are cool. People are really nice. The knife world, is it cutthroat? Is it pretty chill?
The knife world's a little bit of both. You get some people that are super secretive. A lot of I'd say there's definitely a new wave and generation of people getting into it. And for the most part, it's it's definitely one of those things that's like people are very open with the information, because if you're going to spend the time to put it together and do it, like hats off to you. Like I'll share anything, like how I do anything that I do, because I just, it's impressive. And if somebody else is going to take the time to like, put the work in and actually forge out this blade and do this technique, like that's super awesome. And I think it's really great that there's more and more people doing it.
Well, I mean,
There's
there's
no reason.
certainly no there's not too many knives out on the market, so I think you're pretty safe there. Yeah. And the carving community just keeps growing, which is
Yeah, it's getting bigger. That's like the gorilla that we have to wrestle at some point is we want to grow it in Los Angeles, California. And I mean, you're probably talking to the two green woodworkers in LA right now. There might be a few more, but there's not a lot. And we want to grow it here. We want to get some events going and stuff. And it has its challenges, which is access to green wood is very difficult here. And it's
Yeah,
not because we don't have it. Huh?
I was actually wondering what wood do you guys carve there?
Oh, we have everything. We have Sean Hearn send us wood. We get wood from Wildfoot Wanderer because we don't have the time to go get it. The thing in LA is a lot of people get wood because it fell, because someone cut their tree down. The thing is, we're a very efficient city. So when a tree falls, it's gone in about 20 minutes. The city just comes and gets it. So there's a large amount of wood here. It's just, it all ends up gone very quickly.
Well, the other problem is it's like there's a lot of trees that get cut down in my neighborhood. I'm in LA Incorporated where I live. Sorry, unincorporated. So it's technically not LA City, but it still is. So we have a lot slower tree pickup, but 98% of it is oak trees and pine trees, which, oak, I mean, it's just so hard to carve with oak. It's such a solid wood and it's super fibrous and porous. So not the best option. And then pine, while totally fine for carving, you're not going to want to make spoons with it. It's too oily. And so it's kind of a funny one where it's like, I have loads of wood around, but it's just not really what we want to be working with.
The native woods that I've gotten have been mostly fruit woods, lemon, orange. I've gotten maple before. And there's a lot in the forest. It's just you can't really go get it because it's protected. So
yeah. What about palm tree spoons? So is there anything else that you guys would like to tell everybody before we wrap up today?
Oh, really? I mean, yeah, we're there.
Most of it. I mean, it's like,
I guess just like appreciation. People have been really kind to us.
Yeah, it's been a very welcoming community. Yeah, and it's kind of amazing how quickly, it's like I feel like people are kind of recognizing what we do.
Pretty fast.
They took a plunge. It's like we sell, our cheapest tool ever has been like what, $120. And the fact that people have taken that leap of faith to test our stuff out has been, it's really much appreciated. It's been really fun. Yeah. We look forward to making a whole lot more stuff for everybody.
Yeah, it's been nice. I mean, I think guys that really helped us out, Sean Hearn just stepped up and really guided us through the industry that we didn't understand. Andy, Grant, Wildfoot Wanderer, Matt at Northwind Handcraft, Emmett's talking to us about other stuff, Hooks.
Village Handcraft.
Yeah, Village Handcraft, Eric. We've had so many people guide us, and then just like unlimited customers letting us know, feedback or what they'd like to see. And, David and Phoenix, telling us that, our glue ups sucked, made us take our glue ups a lot more serious, and it's good information. So we're just pretty grateful. It's not like that in a lot of industries where other people help you, and
yeah, it's good, push you in the right direction.
I guess too, as makers themselves, being carvers, they've got an appreciation for the work that goes into making something. Yeah. So when it comes to charging the right price, which we're all guilty of undercharging, I think people will guide you to charge the right amount.
Yeah, because it's funny. Like
if you don't, you won't last. It's got to be sustainable.
Yeah. And it was funny. Our first batch, we had a few people being like, "You guys need to charge more than this." And I was like, "Oh, well, great. We'll finish our introductory rate."
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that we like. So it's past now, but when we first started, we were like, first 50 knives, we're going to sell them at an introductory rate because we want to make sure that people, they can take that gamble at a slightly lower rate than what we are at now. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's been good.
I think as people grow in craft, they start to understand that tools have a value because of longevity. You can buy, you can buy a knife from any of the top makers, and it's gonna last you a really long time. Like I wear a pair of Red Wing work boots, and I paid $275 for them, but I've had them on my feet for 6 years, and they're still good and they're still going. So that's a lot of boots I didn't have to buy. You buy something that's made well, it lasts you a long time. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like we want to see one of our knives get worn down to a nub, but we also want to make that take as long as possible. So put everything we can into it.
Yep. Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for chatting to me today, guys. I'm super stoked to be working with you.
Yeah, we're stoked.
I'm so grateful. I think that we've got very similar ethics and motivations. So
Agreed.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.